Welcome to the Tracks Investor Q&A. My name is Marty from Birchal, and I'm really excited to be here tonight with the Tracks team to talk about the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to become an investor in this iconic surfing magazine. So Tracks, it's got a 54-year history that nearly spans the entire lifetime of the surfing industry. It's played a major role in shaping the culture as well as bringing communities together throughout those 5 decades. So joining us tonight from the Tracks team, we have Peter and Greg joining us from Sydney. Do you want to say good day, guys?
Good day, guys.
Good day.
We've got Luke, who's also in Sydney.
Hello.
And we've also got Damien, who's up the coast tonight.
Hey, everyone.
So before we jump in, I'll just pass around the room for the Tracks guys to give you a little bit of an introduction as to who they are and what their role is with Tracks. And then I'm going to jump into a bit of an overview of what we're going to cover tonight. So Peter and Greg, over to you guys first.
Pete Strain, and I'm the CEO of Tracks and one of its directors.
I'm Greg Quayle. I'm a television producer. My company is called Perpetual Entertainment. We've been around about 25 years, working in Australia, USA, New Zealand, West Australia, London. We make television for primetime audiences, both in scripted and unscripted. And I've joined the Tracks team with a remit to create television content for future consumption.
Luke, do you want to go next?
I'm Luke Kennedy. I'm the editor of Tracks magazine, and I have been in that position since halfway through 2008.
Awesome.
I'm Damien Martin. I'm the general manager, and like Luke, I've been with Tracks for quite a lot of time, about 20 years now.
Great to have you all here. My name is Marty. Like I said, I'm from Birchal, and I'll tell you all a little bit more about Birchal and our role in a moment, but we're the platform that is hosting the Tracks investment offer. And like I said, we're really excited to bring everyone here tonight, members of the Tracks community, investors, people who are excited about this opportunity. To kick off, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm calling in from the land of the Wurundjeri people from the Kulin Nation, and I extend my respect to elders past and present, and pass that respect around the country for everyone else calling in from around Australia. So yeah, tonight we're going to be facilitating questions for everyone with the Tracks investment offer. That is the main purpose of tonight. So you'll see down the bottom of your panel here on the Zoom call, there is a Q&A button. So you can ask a question anytime. Don't have to wait for questions. Just go ahead and jump in and ask a question whenever you want. And I'll go ahead and read those out to the Tracks team a little bit later on. I'd also like to encourage everyone tonight, you don't have to just ask questions, but you can also give shout outs to the Tracks team, shout outs to the community about what you like about Tracks. Maybe that's a particular article, particular event you've been to. Just give shout outs in there as well, because it's a pretty unique opportunity to get everyone together in one place. So what we're going to do is tonight, I'm going to ask the Tracks team a bunch of questions, and that's going to go for 15 or 20 minutes. They're going to explain a little bit more about their role at the company and what they're working on as part of this investment campaign. After that, I'm going to give you a little bit more detail about Birchal, what our role is and how equity crowdfunding works. And then finally, we're going to end with about 30 minutes of audience questions. So feel free to ask them anytime. You'll also notice you have the ability to give a little thumbs up to any questions that are asked. So what I'll do is I'll prioritize the questions with the most thumbs up, and we'll go to those ones first. Cool. So to kick off, just setting the scene a bit. So back in 2021, Tracks was actually owned by a company called Next Media, and we're in the thick of COVID, and the surf industry was feeling the pinch, like many industries, and with the restrictions on travel, it was particularly hard. So Tracks, it's been around for nearly 50 years, but it hadn't published an issue in 12 months, and that's when Peter, who's now the CEO of Tracks, got the opportunity from a phone call to actually buy Tracks. So Peter, over to you. Can you tell us about the people who currently own Tracks and how you brought them all together?
Sure, Marty. So you're right. It was a little over 3 years ago when I did get a call that Tracks was for sale, and it just didn't fit within the Next Media arrangement of their magazines, and they just wanted to jettison it. And so I rang up the CEO and I went over and I had a chat to him, a bit of a yarn about what it was that he wanted for it and why he wanted to sell it, etc. I then came back to Bondi and I bumped into 2 mates. I went for a walk and I bumped into 2 mates, And I asked them for their views as to whether I was mad for even thinking of buying Tracks. And both of them answered in exactly the same way. Not only are you mad, can I have a piece of the action? And so I thought, well, I've got to go home. I've got to stop talking to people. Otherwise, there'll be very little for me to buy. So Greg Cooper and David Mullen, the two I speak of, came on board straight away. We then negotiated a sale of Tracks and were delighted to bring on Luke and Damien, who are also on this call, as part of the management team. And of recent times, we've brought on Greg Quayle. So we're now the owners of this fantastic and iconic brand.
Nice. And given that everyone on this call and everyone listening to this recording later on will also have the chance to become a part owner of Tracks in a couple of weeks when we launch the investment offer, can you give us a bit more information about what got you really excited about purchasing Tracks way back then?
Sure, being able to. That was the most important thing. For 50, then a little over 51 years, it had been a closed house since Albie and the boys sold it in the 70s amongst large corporations. Impossible to buy a share in the iconic magazine and iconic brand. It came up for sale. I mean, these things happen once in your life. They come up for sale once, and you either make the decision to buy it or you just walk away and then look jealously at somebody else that's bought it. So I've been a fan of Tracks, reading Tracks since the 70s. Absolutely loved the brand. I mean, let's be clear about this. I was not in the market for a surfing magazine, that's for sure. But when that surfing magazine was Tracks, it was the brand that we wanted to grab and to exploit in the nicest possible way. Of course, we wanted the magazine as well because we'd always loved it. But we just saw the opportunity in the brand was incredible. And so that's what excited me then, still excites me now.
And so now you're raising funds, and companies have plenty of options when it comes to raising funds, but you've decided to open the door to your community to get them involved. So can you tell us why you made that decision instead of, say, going to some larger investors to see if they wanted to get involved?
Yeah, good question. And it is my community, and it's everybody on this screen's community, and it's everybody who's watching this, it's their community as well. We could, and we had opportunities of tapping a couple of whales on the shoulder and saying, look, can you invest some money in us because we want to do this, that, and the other. That would have got us 2 ambassadors. What we're doing here with opening it up to our community, to the surfing community, is giving the people that have loved Tracks for 50 odd years an opportunity of it being their company. We're bringing on not just shareholders and members, which of course we are, but we're bringing on brand ambassadors who will love the brand and who are going to love the ride.
Cool. And I've seen we've got a fair few more people have joined recently, so just want to encourage everyone to ask questions whenever they come to your mind. Don't have to wait until the audience questions, which is coming up in about 10 or 15 minutes. And also just want to point out that we're recording tonight's webinar, and we'll be sending around the recording after. So if you've missed the first 5-10 minutes, no stresses there. So passing over to Luke now. So Luke, 20 years of experience at Tracks. You've been behind more than 100 editions of the magazine, which is it's a fair chunk. Started as a freelancer way back in the early 2000s and became the editor in 2008. Beyond working on the magazine, Luke's also enjoyed cameos and as commentating positions, worked on several Tracks films, and also recently featured on the Apple TV series Make or Break following the WSL tour. So, Luke, there's been more than 600 editions of Tracks to date, and you've been behind many of those. Are there any that stand out during that time that you're particularly proud of?
Look, I think those anniversary issues really stand out. I think I was there for the 40th and the 50th anniversary, and it's a challenge to condense all that history into a single magazine. But I think on both occasions we did a pretty good job of capturing the spirit of Tracks on those occasions. On a personal level, I'd say it was a pretty memorable issue when I still had an open wound from a tracheostomy operation in my throat, where I was nearly killed at sunset by my own surfboard, but I had to get in and finish the magazine. That's what you do. So that was quite memorable. But I'd say I'm probably, proudest of the publications we've done since we took over as independent publishers. I think the quality of the magazine's really improved. It's way more tactile. I think the quality of the content's improved. And it's a good time to be the editor.
Cool. And Luke was saying before the call that that's actually a picture of a sunset behind him. So glad you still haven't lost the love for that wave even after it nearly killed you. So, with 20 years of experience in the surf media industry, Luke, what are the most noticeable changes that you've seen in that time?
I mean, obviously, the obvious one is the uprising of digital content and the surge of digital content, which is, one of the major reasons we're having this fundraise. We want to move quite aggressively in that direction, but we also want to preserve the identity of Tracks, and that identity is still underpinned by the print product, I think, and still takes as much energy and effort to do a great printed product. So we want to hang on to that, but we want to move into a whole sphere of other directions. We want to be far more dynamic. So that certainly reflects the change. I mean, the other big change for us has been we were once part of major publishing houses where we were alongside 30 or 40 other publications at times. The good thing about being an independent publisher is you're able to be much more focused, which is great. And you can also be a lot more nimble. And surfing and the surf industry and surf culture are quite nimble and spontaneous settings. You have to be able to react and respond to changes in the market and changes in the culture quickly. Yeah. And being an independent publisher enables you to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm definitely a big fan of the long form content that Tracks puts out. It's quite refreshing actually in the current market, given everything so immediate and so short term to have a voice out there doing that. And so the final question for you, Luke. So we know that Tracks has its history deeply embedded in Australian surf culture, started in the northern beaches of Sydney back in the 70s. But, given you've been around the world and you've got a good perspective of the global media landscape, can you give us an idea of how Tracks is perceived globally?
Well, the best way I get a perception of how it's perceived globally is when I travel. I have had the opportunity to travel a lot with Tracks, and it's amazing how often I'll be somewhere like Hawaii or the United States, and someone will paddle up to me in the surf and go, Tracks, I love Tracks. And you're sort of quite pleasantly surprised by that response. So, globally we have a good reputation. You have to remember that Australia and probably mainland USA have been part of this ongoing wrestling match for control of surf culture and control of surfing supremacy. And I guess in many respects, Tracks is the ambassador in a lot of ways for that, or has been for decades over the years, representing Australia.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Luke. So moving on now to Damien. So Damien's the general manager at Tracks. He's the man that pulls everything together behind the scenes and has been integral to pulling together this investment campaign. So similar to Luke, notched up more than 2 decades of experience with Tracks, joining in the early 2000s. You're working on everything from getting the mag published to hosting the Tracks parties and helping set up the surf accommodation platform that we've heard a lot about, Tracks Shacks. Damien also has experience running surf travel experiences, so he's probably a good man to know, and places like the Tilo Islands in Indonesia. So Damien, given your experience in surf travel, can you give us an idea of what the advantages of a surf-focused accommodation platform like Tracks Shacks would have over, say, a traditional platform like Airbnb?
Sure, Marty, thanks. Look, with Tracks Shacks, the aim is to make the experience better from the get-go, from entry to the exit point. Look, we've already done the sifting, so it's instantly takes the target market, which is surfers, directly to exactly the types of places and properties that they're looking for. So, for example, when you come to Tracks Shacks, you're going to be in close proximity to surf, whether that's, right on your doorstep, you're on your balcony checking the surf, or it's, within a few Ks radius of it. So, there's going to be surf close by. I think importantly from our experience being surfers, we know what surfers want, what they're seeking in accommodation. Is there a balcony where you can wake up in the morning and check the surf and have a coffee or an upright beer? Is there a bike with racks, at the property? Is there an outdoor shower, or maybe there's a skate ramp in the backyard for your kids, or in close proximity? So these are sort of features we're going to highlight on the properties, and we know surfers are going to be interested in seeking out. Importantly, with the content side of things, the website's going to have a lot of useful content related to surfers. So it's going to be guides, educational, and also about inspiring them to get out there and discover new locations. So, we'll have surf spot guides showing the main surf spots with videos and photos. But look, importantly too, we won't be just showcasing breaks that are secrets or anything like that, because we, as surfers, we want to still be able to get away and have a surf by ourselves. And importantly too, we've got a great partner in Allogio, who are one of the largest short-term accommodation platforms in Australia. They're experts in the field, and they provide us really strong back-end support, as well as customer service support too.
Cool. And I was having a look at Track Shack's, the website, before. If anyone on the call hasn't checked it out yet, you can go there. It's live at the moment, and have a little poke around. It's got some really cool properties there. And then another question for you, Damien, here. So, Trax has a massive community behind it, nearly 200,000 followers on social media, thousands of magazine subscribers, and you've just had the Trax parties going around the country following the surfing events. So, given you're the one pulling a lot of these things together, and you're out there amongst the community meeting people, can you maybe give an idea of the sort of people that make up your community and what they get out of Trax?
Sure, yeah. Look, Trax has a universal appeal. It's a very broad fan base, from young to not so young. And I guess having a title that's been around for over 50 years, Trax has been part of many surfers' lives for generations. So I think it's very broad. And we've got avid fans who collect all the magazines, who've been doing so for decades. And I can't count the number of times that people have told us about their collections, and Luke would be the same, and Pete too. How they're so proud of this massive collection of magazines, through the old newspaper and up into the more contemporary magazine now, which has a beautiful tactile feel, epic photos, and unbelievable journalism from Luke, and also our contingent of contributors as well. And then in terms of the music space and that too, I guess we feel like we've identified a bit of a space here, because a lot of music festivals are struggling, a lot of costs. Young people will still want to have fun. So the Trax parties, which we've been sort of touring on the East Coast, have just wrapped up, and you can jump on our Instagram feed and have a little look at it if you like. We just posted a video, but it's been really refreshing to see Gen Z there, like young 20-year-old crew, having an epic time. It's like flashbacks to the 90s, and fashion-wise, and the music and the style, and they're just having a great time. So it's been really wonderful to connect with those young people and introduce them to the brand as well. And we're going to continue with those sorts of initiatives into the back end of this year, into next year as well. And the other thing we brought back to were the film screenings. We kicked this off with Morning of the Earth, which was a sellout tour. Excuse me. An amazing response to that. We also had Free Ride last year. We partnered up with Patagonia on the Jerry Lopez tour, and it's been wonderful to see families go to this with grommets, with their mum and dad, people in their 20s, and then crusty old people like us as well attending. But it's wonderful to see the community come together. So it's really, I guess, we've got developed many touch points, that are relevant for different people in the community or the surfing community. We want to do much more of that too.
Right. Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to one of the Trax parties when it came to Torquay, and it was an awesome way. I mean, when the World Tour was in town as well, of giving a chance for the community to get together and have a good time down at the Surf Lifesaving Club there in Torquay. It was definitely a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite. And thanks everyone for getting your questions in. We've got heaps of questions coming through. Keep upvoting the ones that you want answered, because we're going to hop to those in a second. Keep the shout outs coming. Anything that you love about Trax, any experiences that you want to share with the community. We'll get to those in a second. And Greg, you're the lucky last person in the hot seat here. So a bit of a background here for Greg. So calling in tonight, Peter and Greg are in the film studios. So Greg's the CEO of a television production company called Perpetual Entertainment. Delivers content to audiences around the globe. Now, Greg began his career in television and news as a current affairs reporter, and is working for all the major TV journalism outlets in Australia. You've also moved across to documentary production and have nearly 25 years as an independent producer. So everyone is bringing a wealth of experience to this team. So Greg's joined recently in 2024 and is going to be leading the brand expansion into the digital television world. So let's start there. Greg, can you give us an idea of the plans for Trax TV?
Right. Well, that brings us to Trax Television. That's what I do. I make TV, and we've got a big team here in Sydney, also in Perth, West Australia, in New Zealand, in Auckland, and in the US, and even in London. We have people producing and distributing, selling television programs, both in scripted and unscripted. And what I'm hoping to do is to bring what we've learned about international television production and Australian television production, and be able to take this iconic magazine, this iconic brand, and bring it into the modern world, whereby we are acknowledging and respecting the way particularly youth consume media these days. Now, when I was a kid, you read Trax, that was it, and it was awesome. Now you've got a sort of cornucopia of brands competing for your attention and for your custom. And we go to TikTok and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and you name it. And we have to progress. We have to adapt to that new way of consumption, and the visual image via a screen is how communication in mass media is done today. No secret, we all know this. And so what we want to do is reflect, celebrate, and enhance the Trax magazine, but on the television screen. And whether that comes to, whether that image comes to you via the television in your home, or at the pub or the club, or whether it be via a laptop or a tablet or a phone, which is probably how many people are consuming this media content right now. We need to be able to deliver the Trax television content across all screens that can possibly be seen and accessed everywhere, not only in Australia, but everywhere in the world. And there are a number of ways that we intend to do that, a number of ways that we want to do that. But perhaps maybe I should talk a little bit about the kind of content that we're looking to deliver. There's basically two kinds. There's content that we buy in, license in from around the world, classic movies, classic dramas, classic films, classic TV shows, all themed, which are brand appropriate, which enhance what Trax stands for. Archival surf competitions from around the world, which can be, like you want to watch, Bell's 1982. Great, we can dial that up. So that's one form of content that we hope to become a one-stop shop for, which is licensed content which already exists. Then the real target is in the second kind of content delivery and content creation, and that is self-generated programs that we make. And Luke and I, we were all talking a little bit earlier today about the sorts of things that we would like to see turn up onto a television program. Not to put you on the spot, Luke, but you mentioned some things, the surf comps and adventure comps and sorts of things that have been in Trax magazine, which we might bring into, a traditional television show for delivery on Trax TV. Some of those ideas, Luke, do you want to remind us on that?
I mean, we've identified that the surfing market, travel is really what people are spending their money on, what people love, surf travel. Surfboards is obviously another area of the market where most people are spending their money. So more detailed information about surfboards. We'd like to do more of our long-form film production, which we did for a long time in the era when DVDs and cassettes appeared on the cover of the magazine. Now we'd like to transfer that back to the digital platforms. We've dabbled in podcasts, but we could probably definitely expand upon that. We've certainly got some great stories to tell there. So, the scope is very broad and it's exciting.
So all those things that Luke has been curating in the magazine, in print, bringing it alive on your television screens. Now, there's basically two models on how we would want this content to be accessible to everybody, and everyone knows what the choices are. You've got advertiser supported content, and you've got non-advertiser supported content. So there's this new sort of storm of television taking the USA by a new form of television platform delivery taking the USA by storm, called fast television, free advertiser supported TV. And so basically, it's very simple. You want to watch the content, we give it to you for free, and you watch the ads, just like watching, Channel 7, 9, and 10. We're all familiar with that. Now, if you want to not watch the adverts, and adverts are our lifeblood, it's critical. If you don't want to watch the adverts, you can just go to a subscription platform where for a nominal fee, you can have all of the programming on demand, and like, Binge or Stan or Disney Plus. And what we want is for what we want to see here at the end of all this is everywhere in this country and then in the world, the word tracks coming to mind when people want to consume anything to do with the surf, skate, ski, which is another kind of conversation, lifestyle. And we basically want to do what the magazine already does, but on all television screens everywhere. That's
right. And you did mention archival footage there. It's probably worth mentioning really quickly the work that's been done by Tracks in actually digitizing a lot of those old issues of Tracks and putting them online for everyone to get access to. Nearly 600 editions now, and doing that has been an amazing feat, and something we really need to commend you on as saving some of that history for everyone to view. So last question for the Tracks team before we jump into audience questions, and Greg, it's for you. So, we talked a bit there about all the exciting opportunities we have in the TV landscape, but obviously that's a pretty competitive landscape when it comes to surf media. So how is Tracks uniquely positioned to compete and to stand out from the crowd?
It's all about your ideas and how you get it to engage with your audience. Now, look what happened in the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping a lot of people watching tonight saw some of the publicity on mainstream media all around the country with regard to Tracks' new initiative to offer 3 young surfers the greatest job in Australia. Just remind us of that, how that's going to work.
Many of you would have seen it, but we're calling it the Tracks Wanderlust bus, where 3 photojournalists are going to jump on a bus. There'll be a filmer with them. They'll be driving up and down the coasts of Australia, chasing swell events, competitions, other interesting sorts of things that happen. They'll be filming themselves. They'll be having fun. They'll be staying in our track shacks, and that lifestyle, throwback to the 1970s, will be filmed, and it'll become a reality TV show.
Right. So to answer that question, we're going to make a TV show about that. So that is us putting ourselves at the head of the game. Once more, Tracks is leading the way with regard to celebrating surf culture, celebrating the lifestyle as it has forever. And as long as we maintain the faithfulness to the celebration of all things, surfing and respect for the earth and the ocean and all the things that everybody loves about Tracks and what it stands for, we believe we will maintain that competitive advantage as a digital and television platform, because it's been successful for the last 54 years or so. And that is the strength, I think, which Tracks brings first and foremost. All we've got to do is emulate and celebrate that in the new digital world. And I believe that'll take us and keep us at the forefront of this endeavor.
Thanks for that, Greg. And thanks, Tracks team. That was awesome. Hope that gave everyone on the call a good idea of the team behind Tracks, what they're working on as part of this raise, and sparked some ideas for questions. And we've got plenty of questions to get to in a second. And please keep them coming. Please keep those upvotes coming in for the ones that you want answered. Before we do that, I'm just going to give a very quick overview about Birchal and this type of investment. It's called crowdsource funding. It's a unique type of investment. I'm sure you've got a few questions about it. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes going through that. And then we're going to jump into audience questions. So Birchal, we're an equity crowdfunding platform based in Australia. We're the biggest platform in Australia. We've done this more than 250 times and raised more than $200 million for Australian companies. What's really cool about this type of funding is it allows everyday people access to companies that were usually only reserved for wealthy people or for venture capital funds. So Tracks is a private company, which means it's not traded on the stock exchange. It's not like Telstra. You can't just go to the ASX and buy shares in it. So to actually get a piece of Tracks, unless you have a lot of money and you're a high net worth investor, was pretty hard before this came about. So with crowdsource funding, if you use a platform like Birchal, it means that this opens the door for everyday investors. So you can invest in companies for as little as $250 and own a piece of these exciting companies. So that's what's really different about it. And our role at Birchal is to facilitate these raises and make sure they meet all the rules and regulations, because it is regulated heavily by ASIC, which is the same body that regulates the stock exchange. And so that's what we're doing here. So as a potential investor, you're going to get access in a couple of weeks to the offer document, which will contain all the information you need to make your decision about purchasing shares in Trax. So it's going to have the financial information, what they're going to use the money for, the team, the current shareholders, all that sort of stuff. So on June the 4th, save that date in your diary. That's when you get a chance to own shares in Trax. And it's going to go in a very limited time. So there's only 2 weeks that you'll have to invest in Trax. And then it'll be done, and it's, it might never come around again. So keep that in mind. 4th of June, 2 weeks from now, is when you'll have a chance to invest. And if you want to invest, definitely get in early, because what happens is the company will set a minimum and a maximum target. And once they reach their maximum target, that's it. Can't take any more investors. And we have seen these campaigns go very quickly before, in less than 24 hours. So I'll give you a little bit of overview there. Please reach out to us if you have any questions about how to invest. I'll get to some of the questions that you've asked tonight, but I guess the key thing to keep in mind is that we've done this plenty of times before. It's a regulated industry, and you'll have plenty more information coming your way before you make your investment decision. So stay tuned for that. All right, jumping into audience questions now. Thanks everyone for chucking these in. Please keep them coming. We've got about half an hour left on tonight's call, and so we'll try to get to as many of these as possible. And like I said, I'm going to go to the ones that have the most thumbs up first, and we'll work down the list. So first question here is from James, and James has asked, how do the current profit and loss look at the moment, and what are the projections moving forward? So just quickly, as I mentioned, we're going to have the offer document coming out soon with the financial statements on June the 4th. And it's really important that we can't give too many projections with these financial statements, because it is a regulated offer of investment. But, Peter and the team, if you want to give some ideas about, what's driving revenue at the moment for Trax and hints towards what the P&L might look like, that'd be really awesome.
Sure. Maybe I could tackle this one then. What I can say is this: when we took over the business 3.5 years ago, Trax having not produced a magazine for 12 months, the P&L was in the toilet. We then started to build that, invested a lot of money into the company, which we were perfectly happy to do because we believe in the brand. We've now seen a lot of green shoots, and in fact, the first half of this financial year, our revenue doubled, which was just wonderful. Where are the green shoots coming from at this stage? Events over the last 12 months for us have been fantastic. Sold out movies, sold out parties. Our advertising is up. Our eyeballs are up on Instagram and Facebook. Our matrix are up on our websites. The green shoots are arriving at just the right time. Where do I see the P&L in the future? I see it being significantly better than it is right now, and the reason for that is we are developing new businesses, and that's where the revenue is going to come from. It's blue sky to an extent, but they're real businesses, real bricks and mortar in Trax Shacks, real television in this bloke here and what we're doing, and that's where the revenue is going to come from. And
probably a good segue into this one is the next question from Warwick, which is, talking about one of those new business lines there, the TV and film production. So how are we going to monetize that? And maybe this is one for you, Greg, to start off.
Well, there's really 3 ways: advertising, subscription, and sponsorship. So everyone is familiar with the way television is consumed. There's kind of the old school way where you're watching a television network and you've been giving advertising in between plot lines. And the point of it is that advertisers are paying money to give you the message, offering you their goods or services. So that's the most traditional method of monetization of television content, advertising. 2, if you don't, in the new world of digital online streaming and the internet providing the means to get you content directly to any of your devices, you can choose to not receive advertising by paying for the content. So subscription, such as Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Stan, Binge, whatever the case may be. here in Australia. So you pay your $9.99 or whatever it is. You don't have to watch the ads, and you pay for the content and you get it on demand. That's the second way to monetize television content. Then the third is sponsorship. So you might have an advertiser who says, well, look, I don't want to run ads, but I'd like to call it the Tracks, hour of surfing power or whatever it is, and someone might want to come and sponsor that. A drinks manufacturer or a surfboard manufacturer might want to say, I'd like to have my brand associated with your brand, and they will pay to have their logo, much like ours is here, on the product and associate the message. So those are the three ways: advertising, subscription, sponsorship.
Thanks, Greg. Another question here from Dan, and this question's got two parts to it, so I'm gonna split them up and ask them separately. So I'll read it out in its full. So Dan is saying, I appreciate the preservation of the Tracks brand and the identity and the opportunity to be part of the venture. But from an investment perspective, what is the ROI, return on investment, that anyone might expect from this fundraise? Is there a planned dividend or buyback after a period of time? In short, what is the financial opportunity? And before I throw the Tracks down, I'll just give you a little bit of an idea from like an industry perspective of what the general exit paths are for businesses like this. So you are investing in a private company that is unlisted on the stock exchange. So there's a couple of ways that these companies can deliver returns for investors. So first one is listing on a stock exchange, and then you can trade shares actively and obviously cash out if you'd like. The second one is getting bought out by a larger company. That is the most common way. So we've seen a couple of examples of this. Most recent one would be Car Next Door, which got bought out by Uber. They did a crowdfunding campaign 12 months earlier, and the people there were able to cash out their money. And in terms of dividends, like this can sometimes be part of the opportunity, but as the team is describing here, they are on a growth trajectory. So in terms of getting a profit and either distributing that to shareholders as a dividend or investing it back into the business, a lot of companies at that stage are going to be investing it back into the business to grow and to hopefully get to one of those other options for an exit another day. So that's just a little bit of background there. But Pete and the Tracks team, if you want to give us some ideas of how you sort of see the future without giving out any promises away, please jump in.
Yeah, look, and we absolutely can't give promises away, only because those promises would be too difficult to even guess at. What we do have is we have been building business for 3 years. With a team of 4 people, we have taken a business which, as I said before, was in a lot of trouble. I hadn't produced a mag for a year. So with a team of 4 people, we've now established a wonderful partnership with Allogio and Track Shacks. We've got nearly 2,000 properties up on our site now. In 4 or 5 years' time, Allogio suggests we're going to have over 100,000 properties. That is a big business. We've built a partnership with Perpetual and a partnership with Exceptional Alien, another travel company, and they are going to build our production house and the travel part of our business. We now have archives on site. Our digital offering is fantastic. Our website is now terrific. We now have an apparel offering, which we never had before, and a big apparel offering coming out in September. We've got surplus. The business has grown incredibly in the last 3 years. What we have then is a very short history, an incredibly dedicated small team, which is about to grow exponentially, the team that is, and the business. So the ROI, look, I wouldn't be sitting here and committing myself to this business if the ROI wasn't decent moving forward. What's it going to be? The offer document is coming out shortly. There'll be a lot more information in there, but none of us would be sitting here talking to you if we didn't think it had a bright future.
And second part to this question, and you can comment below the questions as well. So if you want to do that, please do. And this might be one for you, Luke, to jump in here. So, with the growth plans that we're talking about here, how do we balance preserving the brand and what, people know and love about Tracks at the moment, on this path to like a digital scale up? How do you stay true to your authentic self?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, it's all about content creation. that's what Tracks is about. It's been telling stories for 50 years, and that's creating content. All we're doing now is the exact same thing. It's the creative process, and we're just creating authentic content for a different platform. So the creative process is the same, the authenticity is the same, the vision is very similar. We're just creating it for a different platform. And as I mentioned before, preserving the printed product, the printed magazine, which underpins the Tracks identity. Of course, that's always going to be there in some form. We're not going to let that go.
Great. Okay, next question here from Lauren. Thanks for your question. We've got a few comments underneath as well, so I'll get to those separately. So are there any people on the board / management team that are under 40 and or women? And if not, what is the plan to get these people on board and grow into demographics without a direct link? So, Peter, you mentioned before about, growing the team and expanding as you move forward. Can you give some ideas as to how you see the diversity of that team developing in the future?
Sure. I take it Lauren wasn't suggesting I was over 40.
Not me, I think.
Oh, in the unlikely event that we may all be over 40, that's a very good question. You'll see on the offer document, and also on an email that we sent to our database the other day, that we have 3 women under 40, 1 under 25, who are in our management team and who are senior in Tracks. But to answer Lauren's question, under our constitution, we're allowed up to 7 directors. We are acutely aware that we look, on the face of it, old and male, and that is because we are. But that's not the future. You have a look at the video that we did, and our future is with younger people, with gender diversity, and that is where we are going. So to answer Lauren's question, absolutely. Not only do we want, but we will have women under 40 on our board. Not tokenism. I can't stand tokenism, but there are some terrific women out there whom we have already spoken to who would love to come and serve on our board. And you betcha, if we want to go forward and appeal to a broader base and a broader demographic, of course we've got to do something like that. And thanks for the question, Lauren.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Lauren.
Just chime in quickly. That carries through all the way through to the production of the magazine. So some of our best contributors at the moment are women, and they're regularly appearing in the magazine. That's both photographically and editorially. Not our most recent cover, but the cover 4 was shot by Krista Funk, who's one of the best photographers in the world. She's obviously a woman. A lot of our behind-the-scenes teams, sub-editors, etc., all women. So we're actually quite a mixed and balanced team.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Lauren. And just a couple of comments underneath I'll read out quickly. So Jason's saying that he's in his mid-20s and interested in investing in Tracks, but agrees that more diversity would be great. Lauren's also agreeing there, and then Paul's jumping in there and saying he has 3 daughters and would love to see more women on the team. So that's great, guys. Thanks for those questions. I also see we have someone with their raised hand, Stephen Smith. Not sure if you're the cricketer. Just chuck your questions in the Q&A panel. We can't do live questions at the moment. So yeah, questions in the Q&A, please. Cool. So moving down the list here, Damien, I want to bring you into the conversation now. So Clinton here is asking, any plans to move into complementary markets like snow skiing, snowboarding, or others? Now, we know you've got a background in other action sports such as mountain biking. So do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, look, sure. Look, I think they're ideas and they're on our radar, certainly. But I think at the moment, look, we're staying laser focused in the surf community. We obviously, as surfers, though, we experience all these things. We've got more things going on in our lives these days. We love to surf. We're passionate about it. I snowboard. I travel to Japan. I know many other people do that. So there's great synergies there. I mountain bike as well. So look, that'll be part of our story, I think, in terms of track shacks as well. Look, people visiting areas, to go surf if they want to do other sorts of things. But we'll see what happens with the platform. And as we're successful, then we'll look at those other opportunities that certainly are in sync with the surf community.
Nice one. Tobias got a couple of questions. He snuck in 3 questions all in one. So we've actually answered a couple of those there, like profitability, offer documents coming on 4th of June, all the financial statements are in there, full breakdown. And there's also going to be a discussion board, once the investment offer's live, so you can still keep this dialogue going with the team. So direct you to that one. Then in terms of the 3rd question here, I'll read out. So what are the thoughts / lessons taken from WSL's media strategy? Luke, maybe you're the best person to answer that one.
How opinionated do you want me to be? I think the WSL, in my opinion, should probably focus more on running the contest and leave the media to the media.
There you go. Very diplomatic. Cool. So Warwick here is asking, with nearly 200,000 followers on Instagram, which is comparable to the surfing world. Not sure what numbers you're going off there, but how do you plan to grow that audience even further? Damien, do you want to jump into that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, it's all about content. So producing more content, having more resources for that, and moving more into the video side of things. Video is obviously key. So with our own production house and own concepts as well, that'll be channeling out through social media. It's obviously a critical tool. It's a great way to engage an audience and a younger demographic, particularly with the likes of Instagram and TikTok. So really, it's all about content and video content and moving into that space, which is something we're going to be doing.
Nice. Got a few shout outs to read out now, and thanks for getting these in as well. We're going to go through a couple of these throughout, and also thanks to everyone who's sticking around. Got heaps of participants still on the call, and I really appreciate you taking time of your evening to be here with us, and we'll try and get through as many questions as possible. So Matthew here is asking if Captain Good Vibes is going to be included in some way. We've got a few comments here below of other supporters of Captain Good Vibes. Peter, do you want to talk to us? I mean, maybe there's some people in the call who don't understand who Captain Good Vibes, the character is. Can you give us an idea about that cult figure?
Well, could I do this? Could I hand that question? I could do it, but Luke would do a much better job of describing who Captain Good Vibes is. But could I answer the question by saying, and you'll understand a little bit of my answer when Luke describes who Captain Good Vibes is. When we first bought the magazine, the question I got asked most was, are you bringing Captain Good Vibes back? A character that started in the 70s, which Luke will tell you about. Tracks published 150 approximately cartoons of Captain Good Vibes. I said, yeah, look, I'll have a little read through them and see if we can republish them. Got up to about number 20 and thought, we can't republish any of these. But then Luke managed to find, God bless him, delving down, probably about 20, which we have published. But Luke, talk to them about who Captain Good Vibes is.
Well, he's also known as the Pig of Steel. Captain Good Vibes is a cartoon character created by a wonderful artist, Tony Edwards, who became a cult figure through the 70s and 80s. And obviously he still resonates through the decades for his outlandish and frequently irreverent behavior. And I think he was once called by a critic in the cartoon world as perhaps the most iconic character created sort of since 1975, since Ginger Meggs from Australia in the cartoon world. So I guess Captain Good Vibes is so popular because he represents deep down the Australian larrikin, the rebellious spirit that still permeates part of our culture. And for that reason, we put him back on the cover 3 issues ago when we contacted Tony Edwards, the original creator, to do a Captain Good Vibes original drawing that appeared on the cover of Tracks. You can go and buy that as a t-shirt now. Will Captain Good Vibes be a part of the future? Captain Good Vibes will always be part of Tracks.
Nice. That was a great addition. Definitely would recommend checking that out if anyone missed it on the call. It's a big neon pink cover. You can't miss it. So in terms of one of these other questions coming in now, Steve has asked, what is the minimum investment with the IPO? Now, I assume the IPO you're talking about here is the investment offer that's coming up on 4th of June. So minimum investment is $250. So you can get in for that price. The average investment on the platform is about $1,800. So again, pointing out that this is for everyone, they can get involved, but we do see investors at all stages. So for most people, investing up to $10,000 is the limit. To go more than $10,000, you do need a certificate from your accountant to, basically show that you can make an investment above that level. But yeah, $250 is the minimum, and about $2,000 is the average. Cool, more questions coming. So more of a shout out here from Roxanne, but Roxanne is saying Track Shacks is a fantastic concept, catering to all budgets. So that's really important here too. Martin has asked, who is the current CFO? Peter, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so one of our directors, Greg Cooper, whom I mentioned earlier, is our CFO. Now, Greg is probably mid-50s. He's had a lifetime in finance. He was CEO of Shareholders, which is a big financial firm in Sydney for many years. He's an actuary, and he is absolutely fantastically positioned for the job, holds all the relevant requirements that one needs for a CFO. He's awesome.
Nice. And thanks again for everyone's questions. I'm going to do our best to get through all of these. We probably will run out of time. So I would encourage again, if people want to upvote questions, that'll be the best way that I can prioritize them. I'm also going to try and ask questions that we haven't heard before. So that's how I'm kind of going through this list at the moment. I got a question here about positioning the Trax brand in the US and international markets. We did touch on this a little bit before, but yeah, Luke, do you want to give us more details there of getting into the US market and globally?
Well, the advantage we have by being positioned in Australia is that Australian surf culture is the culture that the rest of the world is really obsessed with. We actually lead the world in surf culture and we define it. So when Trax launches onto a digital platform and really expands on its content, the rest of the world is going to want to watch anyway, because Australia it's the epicenter of where surf culture is happening. As I said, we've kind of had a wrestling match with probably California over the years, but I'll claim it tonight. So we know that when we upscale and we have the support of people like Greg to do it, that there's going to be a lot of international eyeballs on Trax. It's just inevitable. At which point we may elect to look at some of the more international options, definitely.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely echoing those sentiments about the Australian surf culture. I mean, you only have to look at the Gold Coast Pro event that was recently run at Snapper Rocks to see that that's well and truly alive and kicking. And great that that's back on the World Tour next year to really get the focus back to Australia. Cool. More questions here. So yeah, this is a really important one. So Steve is asking, what are the benefits to a shareholder beyond investing? So discounts on gear, VIP events, etc. Damien, you've been working away on the goodies pack here. Do you want to give some little hints as to what might be involved?
Yeah, look, certainly. I guess we're going to have a range of gifts depending on the level of investment. We want to reward them. So we'll certainly be running an event, which will probably be based in Sydney. So we want to bring the community together. So there'll be an invitation for some sort of function, come and meet the team, and our ambassadors as well. So that'll be certainly part of it. There'll be merchandise too, which will be part of the rewards. And there's some frame prints too is what we're looking at, and potentially some frame things with some really sort of priceless, I guess, which will make them priceless in nature. So we've got a lot to draw from as a brand, but that's probably the key things that we'll be looking at for as rewards for investing on top of being part of Trax, part of the community.
Yeah, and that's another one, June 4th. You'll get all the details about it then. Also really important that you sign up, express your interest through the platform so you can get exclusive access. Just to give everyone an idea, for the first couple of days, the investment is actually private for people who've signed up beforehand. So at the moment, we're in what's called the expression of interest phase. As the name suggests, we're just taking your interest. But what you get out of expressing your interest is that exclusive access for the first 48 hours. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you go to the Birchal page and sign up for Tracks. That way you can stay up to date with all the updates about the investment offer, and most importantly, get access before everyone else does. Thomas here is asking, what do you expect from investors? And I suppose, maybe just to add to that question, at the end of this, you'll have a bunch of community investors. So what are you hoping to get out of that? And what are you hoping in terms of their involvement with Tracks moving forward? Peter, maybe you can jump into that one.
Yeah, sure. No, I'd love to, because one of the things that I'm hoping to do once the race is over is to be the shareholder liaison person of the company, because I just love the fact that these people who are going to invest in us want to be a part of this. What am I expecting from them? I'm hoping they'll be brand ambassadors. We'll be offering them discounts and rewards and goodies left, right, and centre moving forward. And we want them to be proudly wearing that T-shirt and the bumper sticker on the back of their car saying, "I own Tracks." Put it on proudly. It's a brand which Australia has loved for 50 years, and you will own it. And so in that regard, I'm just hoping they become a really deep part of the team like we are, and they're shareholders like we are, and we can just move forward and build this brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And there'll be more details to come throughout the campaign and all that. Question here from Dion, and just before I jump into that, again, thanks everyone for sticking around. We've still got heaps of people on the call and heaps of unanswered questions. I reckon we'll go for maybe 10 minutes past 7 at least. Probably at most we'll go for another 15 minutes just to make sure everyone doesn't pass out on the call tonight. But like I said, we are recording tonight's call, so you'll get a copy of it. We're also going to record all the questions, and I really like to encourage everyone to reach out to the Tracks team if you do want to follow up with any of these questions. I know Pete has shared around his email and mobile number for everyone, so feel free to give him a call. But part of this expression of interest is making sure you get all the details that you want before the investment offer goes live. And the Tracks team have been really generous at offering their time, so please take advantage of that if you'd like to. I've had the opportunity to speak to a couple of interested investors as well, and it's been some great conversations. So Dion is asking here, and this is really core to the messaging of the campaign, is the goal to keep Tracks in Australian hands and remain Australian owned? Peter, do you want to answer that?
I'm happy to answer that.
Yep.
The answer is yes, yes, and yes. And that's why we're having this crowdfund in Australia with wonderful Australians.
Nice one. And that's really important to, the opportunity to go to the crowd and to access funds is staying independent. Steve here is asking, regards to surf tourism, do you tie in cultural aspects such as food, cooking, etc., to immerse yourself in the culture? Maybe even going more broadly than Tracks Shacks. Damien, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, look, I think it's an important part of the lifestyle, definitely. It'll be part of the content. As you said, touching with Track Shacks, it'll be part of the journey, part of the story. Because when you go somewhere, whether it's going to be overseas or whether it's in Australia, you don't just surf. You want to go grab a coffee or have a meal or go drop in at the local surf shop or whatever. So that's really part of the narrative, part of the story for us. We'll be exploring that like you would if you go traveling, wherever you go to, whether you go to Indonesia. What do you go out and check out? And I guess we've touched on this with Exceptional Alien. We're part of their program as well. We've done some things, initiatives, and that's very much part of that. Surfing is one element, a really important element for us, but there's all these other wonderful things which is part of the travel experience, and we'll be focusing and zeroing in on those as well, telling those stories.
Yeah, nice one. Matt has asked a good question here, long one, so I'll go through it slowly. So it's clear that Tracks is looking to get a younger audience. How are you going to stack up against companies like Stab, who are already crushing it with a younger demographic, with their content, events, and online presence? Who do you see as other major competitors, and how would you stand out with a point of difference? Luke, you might be best placed to jump into that one.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt that Stab do a good job with a youthful audience. But I don't know, I was at a Tracks party on Friday night with about 400 screaming kids who seemed to be having a good time. So we were certainly reaching a younger audience in that capacity with our events. There was no doubt about it. Philosophically, compared to someone like Stab, Tracks is probably a little bit broader. Stabbed is probably a bit more narrowcast. Their kind of concept of what's cool is probably a little bit more narrowly defined. Tracks is a broader church. We like eclectic surfing. We like the diversity. We like characters. We like different individuals. We don't want to sort of say, this is how you have to be if you are a surfer. We want you to be the surfer that you are and to be as interesting and individual as you want to be. And that's one of the messages that we've always, I think, tried to project through the magazine. That dates back to the origins of Tracks, which had things like music, which had things like a cooking column. You know, it was a very diverse, open-ended agenda, and will continue to be like that. That's our point of difference. We're just going to expand that onto a much bigger platform now.
Yeah, nice one. Just reading a couple of shout outs here that have come in, and thanks for getting these ones in. So Andrew's saying as a kid, his toilet was covered in Tracks pictures. That's awesome. Roxanne has asked, you know, will you focus on great merch? She's saying the calendars were sick and would love to see more of them today. Same for the artist collab t-shirts. She really liked those. So yeah, merchandise. Peter, do you want to talk about merchandise? I know you do love the gear.
Yeah. So we've been working on heritage and classic Tracks tees for the last few months. Damien's done a lot of work on them. We've employed a third-party consultant who's got 35 years in the industry to run that for us, and he's been doing an incredible job. They will be in the stores in September and online on our e-commerce. So we're redoing our e-commerce platform on our website specifically for apparel and other merchandise. We're already moving into the wholesale market without even going out there. We'll have shirts in the Gowing shop in Coffs Harbour, a Revival in Yamba, and we're talking to about another 3 or 4 other shops already. So merchandise is going to be a wonderful part of our business in the next few months. We're really excited about it.
Cool. Another question here. So Pragarth has asked, any plans of online coaching and training programs for people looking to get into this lifestyle? So, I mean, and also maybe just broadening that question out, you know, for people on the call who maybe aren't surfers themselves, can you talk to us about, you know, the opportunity for them to get involved with what Tracks is doing? Damien, do you want to answer that one?
Sorry, do you just clarify that? Getting involved in terms of learning how to surf, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe just going back to the original question. So do you see online coaching and training programs as part of anything that Tracks might offer in the future?
Look, at the moment, it's not on our radar at the moment. Hey, it's not something we're certainly delving into, but we won't count anything out. You know, if it's an interested audience, we want to be open to everyone, whether you're beginning, starting your journey with surfing and learning. And there's so many people doing that since COVID. You know, we've seen surfing explode. So, yeah, we want to be open to everyone, whether you're starting it out, you've been surfing for many years, or, you know, you're a pro surfer. So we'll look at those sorts of things. And I think with a digital platform, or as we expand in digital content, those things become more of an opportunity for us to execute and be part of the digital platform. So, yeah, and I think certainly Track Shacks, again, going back to that, it's people who it's going to be open to, you know, whether you're a beginner as well, and we'll have guides and things through Track Shacks to help you out in your journey and travel and that sort of thing. So it'll certainly be part of the agenda with Track Shacks.
Cool. So we're going to wrap it up now. And thank you everyone for sticking around for your questions. Another question is coming from Dan about if there are unanswered questions, who to follow up with. So I'm going to throw Peter under the bus here and say, Peter's your man. I think email is peter@tracks.com.au. You should have it, but that's where to send any follow-ups and to engage from there. There'll be more updates coming out via email as we get closer to that June 4th launch date coming up. Like I said, tonight's webinar has been recorded. But in closing, what I might just do is go around the room for the Tracks team and just ask you to give us your last pitch to investors. So maybe if you could each tell us, you know, what you're most excited about working on at Tracks at the moment, and why people should get involved, starting with yourself, Greg.
Well, I guess I'm the latest in this group to take an ownership position in Tracks. So I guess I put my money down, and I just see it as a really spectacular investment. I see it as a really sound investment, and I see the things that I know we're going to do as something worth backing, and there are two parts to investment. Okay, yes, everyone wants to be in a position where you get a return on it, but it's also a really spectacular journey to go along. I think what Tracks has been, what it is, and what it's going to be. It's just a really fantastic story. It's going to be a great Australian story, in my opinion, and that's why I wanted to be part of it. Not only just working in it, but also putting down an actual amount, an actual sum to get involved. So I hope that this webinar and the other ones that are coming helps sort of people understand. I think what I first understood when I saw this opportunity is that it's exciting and it's wholesome and it's real, and it's a fun brand to be involved in. Lifestyle and adventure and all the rest of it. It's a good way to live your life, and why not invest in it? That's the position I took, and will continue to take, and I hope that sort of infects everyone else around the country, frankly.
Cool. Damien, might go to you next. So what are you most excited about working on at Tracks at the moment, and why should people invest?
Okay. Well, look, I guess I've been part of the journey with Tracks. I mean, I started in, reading in the 80s, first got my job there in the 2000s, and I thought that was amazing. It was a dream job for me. And then in 2021, the opportunity to buy in and be part of Tracks, I couldn't believe that it happened. So it was an amazing experience. I want people to come along and, feel what we've felt as being part of Tracks and part of the community, part of the family. But I'm really excited about taking the brand to another level and the opportunities we've got moving into greater digital content, video production, and certainly Track Shacks. I see it as a wonderful opportunity as well. Super excited about that. The events, actually, there's so many things I'm really pumped on with the events, really reaching out to the community the last 3 years and being part of that. So yeah, I think there's great things. We're only just getting started. So it'd be great to have more people along with us.
Cool. Over to you next, Luke. What are you most excited to be working on at Tracks at the moment, and why should people invest?
I think the most exciting is the fact that surf culture is in a really good place at the moment. I think surfboards are really interesting. I think it's great to see a lot more women surfing. There's a flourishing surf culture. Tracks just needs a few more platforms to explore those stories. That really excites me. And the other thing is that I want to create something that Australians can be proud of and continue to be proud of. And how many things do we have to hang our hat on? I think an iconic Australian surf media brand is a fantastic thing for us to take to the world.
Nice one. Pete, lucky last. What are you most excited about working on Tracks right now, and why should people invest?
I'll do it in the other order. I would say that people should invest in Tracks because they can, and because this is an opportunity which probably won't exist again, and it's an opportunity that certainly hasn't existed for 54 years, and rarely are you able to, like the Remington man, to love the brand so much that you buy it. But here is an opportunity for people out there who love the brand so much they can buy it. We're not asking them to mortgage their house or borrow from all their friends. It's not a huge investment, at a minimum of $250, and they own the brand, like the rest of us on this webinar. And the thing I'm most excited about right now at Tracks is replying to the emails of all these people that are going to email me over the next few days. And dead set, if you ask for a phone call, you're going to get it.
Exactly. Whether you like it or not. That's it. Well, thanks for the Tracks team, and for everyone who's been so generous with your time to stick around tonight. We've gone 10 minutes over. We had 33 unanswered questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them. Like Pete said, drop into his inbox. He's going to be looking out for those. Final one for me, June 4th. I've said it a few times, save that date in the diary. It'll be your chance to invest in Tracks, and it might not come around again. Any questions you have about Birchal and the platform, send them through to our team. My email is martin@birchal.com, so feel free to drop into my inbox as well. Happy to answer any questions or jump on the phone too. But yeah, massive shout out to all the Tracks team for hanging around and for answering all the questions. The recording's going to be out to everyone tomorrow, and stay tuned for more updates. Thanks everyone.
Thanks guys. Thank you.
Cheers.